Hey, what's up, everyone? Just want to share with you guys really quickly some tech that I think is being underutilized, and just think of it as a lever that you can pull if you want to, kind of take your DPS to the next level. If the bossing is a little bit uncomfortable and there's just this DPS breakpoint you want to hit to, like, kill the boss before it phases. And that is the Fated End Power Ring. It comes from the Enchanted Armaments blueprints in Heist. And as you can see, it's not the cheapest thing in the world. It's currently 50 chaos. It was actually really, really cheap earlier on. Yeah, it looks like people, maybe someone put out a guide recently that is recommending it. The price definitely jumped up a lot in the past week or so, but it's definitely pretty cheap of an item. Yep, currently about 50 chaos, although, we'll talk about breakpoints and exactly how it works in a second. Maybe looks like this is something that people are using in the Void Sphere. Looks like people are using it in the Void Sphere build for doing Toda, so besides cheesing things in the game, I think it's a cool unique that is worth talking about and thinking if you can fit it into your build. So what is it and what does it do? So your curses are faster. This is a corrupted one, usually just has mana on the implicit. Gives you a little bit of intelligence, gives you some increased cast speed, and then the key is your non-aura hexes will expire upon reaching up to 220% of base effect. Goes from 180 to 220. So what that means is your curse starts off, your hex, sorry, it's always your hexes, not all curses. Doesn't work for marks. Your curse, your hex, will start at 100% curse effect, right? Just the default is 100% curse effect. And then it will gain 20% effect per second, and then it will expire at up to 220%. But there's no difference between 201 and 220% for the regular setup, right? Because no matter what, at 201, it'll stop at 200 and then expire, which means that after 5 seconds, your curse is actually at 200% base effect. It's actually a double effect. A thing to note is if you have quality, like if you have default curse effect or if you have it on the passive tree, that will actually work against you for the uptime of the Fated End effect. So you actually want to have like non-qualityed curses or, no increased curse effect on your passive tree. Like you wouldn't want these nodes that have increased curse effect because that will make it, you're just going to hit that breakpoint faster. And then what happens is when it reaches that breakpoint, then it will expire. The curse will get removed automatically. So what it means is you get this ramping curse effect that then expires after reaching that. So by default, you're going to get, if you have a good roll on here, you're going to get 5.9 seconds of ramping curse effect. And so what that looks like is when you first cast it, it's just a regular curse. And this works for everything. Like it doesn't say on cast. So this will also work for curse on hit, assuming you're not reapplying it constantly. If you're doing something like a slower ignite build, detonate dead, something like that. If you have an additional curse that you're casting with your detonate dead and you're not reapplying constantly, this can be really good for ramping that damage. You'll go from 100%, 120, 140, etc., up until 220, where it'll immediately expire, right? So you get 5.9 seconds of uptime, because as soon as it hits that 6 seconds, it's gone. So on average, you're looking at about 3 seconds for your average damage that you're going to do, assuming you have perfect casting of your curses. And we can look at what that does to the damage of a build that is based around curses. So for example, this is my Ignite Fire Trap build. And then the other thing to note is there is an opportunity cost here where you're also missing the base damage. Like this ring gives me a lot of damage, and you're going to be missing that by equipping a ring that gives you, no base damage. So just always take that into account. Looking at my Fire Trap build right here, we're looking at a combined DPS of 23.7 million DPS. That's with no ring equipped whatsoever. If I equip a Fated End, and we go to an average of 3 seconds, right? So we get this additional line here that says curse duration expired on enemy. We can see, with 0, no change. 1, we see the damage start to go up. 2, 3. So this is going to be our average damage, is we go from 23 million DPS to an average of 29.1 million DPS. A significant damage boost. We're looking at 26% more average damage for the build. I just realized with this specific build, I was trying to figure out why the number wasn't going even higher. With this specific build, we actually hit the negative curse res max. I was trying to show that it would go even higher, going from 3 to 4 to 5. And the damage is actually capped out at 3 right here, which is pretty cool for this build. And to demonstrate this a lot easier, I can do it with a poison build. I think that poison build is basically where this technology particularly shines, because we scale both off of temp chains and despair. And since we want to ramp and we want it to last even longer, we got some cool stuff that we can do here. So you can see that with my build, and if you haven't seen it yet, my Poison Lightning Strike Guardian, really proud of that build. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. You can see that I'm actually at the dot cap. That's 35.7 million DPS. We're at the damage over time cap for regular monsters. However, we get this nice little modifier here that is 70% less to enemy damage taken. So you can see that, and this will give us a really good indication of how much damage we're actually doing to the build. So by switching to Uber Pinnacle DPS, we can see that we're actually at 28.3 million DPS, which if we calculate right here, we're at 28.3 divided by 0.3 for 94 million DPS. And that's our actual damage that we're doing, 94 times 0.3 for the 70% less. When you hit the dot cap particularly, this is the only way we can really see how much damage we're actually doing. However, the Fated End really shines in an Uber bossing DPS situation. So this is with no ring on whatsoever. If I put on the Fated End and we go to 3 seconds of curse duration expired, we're at 35.7 million DPS again. We actually already, after 3 seconds, this gives us to the full dot cap, to the point where I have to do something like 50% less damage just to see like we're hitting that much damage. So if I set this at 0, we're at 14 million, and then we go to 3, and that averages to 21 million DPS. We gain significant damage for poison just after 3 seconds of stacking poison. That's 42.8% more damage after 3 seconds has expired. We're actually at an average of 42% more damage because we still have 3 more seconds of ramp, right? The damage is just going to keep going up until it expires after 28.8 million DPS with a 50% less damage multiplier. We're actually way over the Uber dot cap, where we can't even use Uber DPS to calculate how much damage we're doing. However, you may be saying, recasting my curses every 6 seconds, that's a bit much, right? Like, Ubers are going to be flying around. That's a pain in the butt. Like, I just don't want to be recasting it every 6 seconds. Well, if you were looking a little bit closer at the screen earlier, you can see that we have some tech to make that a little bit easier. So Bane actually has some pretty cool stuff for us here. Unfortunately for me, with the nerf to Bane, Bane now has this modifier that says applied curses have 25% less effect. So if you just want to play Bane as a primary skill, that really sucks. That's actually a really, really big downside. What we can do here is actually add Bane in for a little bit more comfort on our ramp. And we actually get a lot more time before recasting our curse with, more uptime of higher value of the curses, because all of this is going to be multiplied times 0.75. So we actually start at 75%. So for the first 2 seconds, it's actually going to be doing less damage. It's going to be less effective on the curses. After 2 seconds, it's going to be at 105. And then it has a much slower burn, giving you 9.9 seconds. The new breakpoint is 211. For non-Bane, it's 201. For Bane, it's 211. We actually get 9.9 seconds of uptime of stronger curses. First 2 seconds are going to be weaker, but then it's going to be stronger for the remaining 8 seconds. If you want to apply 2 or 3 curses, you can use Bane to apply all of them at one time. Because of that 25% less effect, we actually get more slow burn of our curses for more uptime of higher damage. I'm going to manually cast Despair, and I have this Fated End at 201 base effect. So if we take a look, it should last for 5.9 seconds. If I do it right at 60 seconds, right at 1 minute, you can see at about 5.9 seconds, that's when the curse expired. Now, if you watch with Bane, so if our calculations are correct, we're at 201. So we should actually get 8 seconds. We should get like 8.9 seconds here. All right, I applied it right at 30. Hopefully all the monsters don't die. There you go. So you can see it lasted. We got our 8.9 seconds off of it. So that gives us a lot more time, a lot more uptime of our curses, and it makes Fated End a lot more comfortable to use. And, you can apply multiple curses with just pressing Bane. Anyway, it's just a really cool thing that I think you might want to consider. Again, you do want 201 for not using Bane and 211 for using Bane. If you just want to give that bossing DPS, that Dom Toretto, Nas boost for the family, then I recommend looking into the Fated End, especially if you just want to kill the bosses. You don't mind pressing 1 additional button. It's not going to be a comfortable thing for mapping, but if you really want to just kill those bosses, boost your damage, I really recommend it. And that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.